So in today's video, I'm going to talk about exporting your images using Lightroom. And we're going to be focusing on Lightroom CC and the Lightroom Creative Cloud bundle. So I use the Lightroom Creative Cloud bundle for my editing workflow. And as part of that workflow, once I've finalized my edits in Photoshop, I then bring my images back into Lightroom before then exporting the images out ready to be delivered to my client. So let me quickly walk you guys through that workflow. It's actually quite simple and straightforward. So if we go into a computer, obviously you will, and most of you will be familiar with the way Lightroom is set up. There are different ways that you can actually export your images through Lightroom. You can either do that directly via the library module, or you can do that even if you're in a develop module. All you got to do if you were doing it via the library module is you simply click export. Down on the bottom left of your software, you click export and you'll have the export window pop up, which you will then put in all the necessary parameters to actually export your images. So let's take a look at this image that we've got here. I'm happy with this image. I'm finished editing the image. If I come down now to export, so this is where all my necessary settings are entered. So if we take a look quickly at the export dialog box, you've got your export location, you got your file name in, your video. Obviously we do not do video via Lightroom, so I rarely use this tab. You also got your file settings, your image size, your output sharpening, your metadata, as well as your watermarking, and finally any plugins that you have, which I will speak about later on in the video. So let's start from the top. And then on the left hand side, this is where you have your presets, your exporting presets, which can obviously enable you to work a little bit faster. I can show you how to actually create a preset as well. So we'll do that towards the end too. So let's go and start by looking at the first menu. So the first menu, which is your export location, you want to pick a location that you want to send your final images to. I currently use a workflow where I send the images directly back to the same location that the original files are located. That way I can actually keep a really good track of where everything is if I need to go back and look for a particular set of images, or if I need to go back and find an image for a client in a hurry. So I will always use the same location as original files. You've got different options there. You can use specific folder, you can choose a desktop, document folder, home folder, movie folder, picture folder. There's so many different choices. And then under that you have put into subfolder, which is where you will then enter a name that you can put into the subfolder. You can enter whatever you want here in terms of name. You can enter your raw files, you can call it raw files, you can call it final edits, anything you wish, you can enter that. We're going to name this one Alyssa Final Edits. You can then add it to a catalog if you wanted, but I usually keep that on check. I usually leave that as ask what to do. In terms of file naming, this is where you can actually come in and change the file name and give it a custom name. So you can change it and give it a custom name. You can edit it and use a name that you prefer. You can go in and fine tune it and give it different sort of parameters that you can use. But I personally don't use this, but you can if you find it a lot easier in terms of like your file naming, and you can either do uppercase or lowercase, etc. If you go uppercase, obviously the last set of digits will be uppercase, the last set will be low, and then you can also use a sequential number there. Like I said, video settings, we don't usually use that, so we will skip that for now. And then we come down to our actual file settings. This is where you set your file format, your color space, as well as your quality. So usually when I'm delivering images to my client, I will always set the file format to JPEG and also set the quality to 100. That way I know that my clients are getting the full high resolution image straight off the bat, and I don't have to worry about actual image quality. In terms of limit image size, I'm not going to take that on simply because I've got another method I have that I use slightly later on in the video, where I'll show you how I can actually reduce image size without actually affecting the final quality of the image. And in terms of color space, I use sRGB simply because this is one of the most widely used color space when it comes to printing as well as web and socials as well. So you have got other options. You can use custom settings, which you've got if you've got like a custom display settings on your computer. You can use Adobe RGB or ProPhoto RGB, but sRGB is very universal and it's one that's used by pretty much everyone within the industry. So I will leave that ticked on as sRGB. The next tab is your image resizing. Like I said, again, this is where you will go in and you will resize the images if you wanted to resize them primarily for socials, or you wanted to just resize them for the web, etc. I personally don't resize my images simply because, like I said, I've got a different formula that I use to resize my images, which I'll be showing you guys later on in the video, and maybe that might be helpful for you as well. So I usually keep that resize to fit unchecked, but what I do actually change is my resolution. I keep my resolution around 240. I know there's many videos out there that shows that keeping it around about 300 might be better, but for me, I find that 240 is perfect in terms of like my resolution. And I also use pixel per inch when it comes to this side. And for my output sharpening, I rarely put any sort of sharpen here unless I'm 100% certain that that image or those sets of images will be then printed, and then I'll ask the client what kind of printing are they looking to do with the images as well. That way I can add a little bit of sharpening based off of what they're going to be doing with the images after I delivered it to them. So I keep this as well unchecked because, like I said, I don't usually edit that too much. Next one is your metadata. This is data that is embedded in the file. Of course, you can enter your own sort of specific metadata that links back the images to you. So this obviously protects you if someone was to download the images unlawfully online. That way it can track the images back to the original creator, which will be you. All other metadata will then be linked to the image. Next tab down is watermark. This is where you can actually go and put a custom watermark on your images. Like this part of the exporting workflow, you can actually use this part if you were delivering sort of proof to your clients. If you were just sending small images for proof and you wanted to add a watermark, so to protect the images from being used on social media, etc., then this is where you will be able to go in and actually add a watermark there. I personally don't watermark my images anymore. I used to, I don't, simply because the technology available now within Photoshop can actually remove a watermark if needs be, and I don't see the purpose in doing it this way either. And for my next step is using a plugin to actually reduce the actual file size without actually ruining the actual quality of my images. And for that, I use a software called JPEG Mini. JPEG Mini is a software that reduces the size of your image without actually reducing the quality of your images. I've used JPEG Mini like this in this way for a while now, and I love it, and I find that it actually does what it says on the box. If you'd like to see a little bit more on what JPEG Mini actually does, I will put a link in the description where you can actually go check it out and look at the different options available in terms of file resizing and etc. So make sure you go check it out. There'll be a link in the description below. So using JPEG Mini, that automatically reduces the size of the file without actually reducing the quality, and it will give you a total savings of what it's done based off of the size of your catalog and how many images you've already exported already. As you can see, I've got a catalog here with almost 18,000 images in there, and using this method I save 41.7 gigabyte of actual space. So you know, if you are somebody that is limited in terms of space on your computer or on your hard drive, using something like JPEG Mini will actually be beneficial to you. So I will definitely look into getting something like it to help with that space management. So the next part and the final tab is your post-processing. I usually leave this as do nothing. You can obviously open the image in Finder, you can open the images in Photoshop, After Export, and any other plugin that you got, or you can add an application that you would want the images to open up in. And yeah, that's it. And all I do from here now is literally click export and the images will be export. But like I said, you can save these particular settings as an actual preset and then give it a name. So let's quickly show you how you do that. You simply come here where it says add and you give that a name. So we can say, just for reference, we're going to call this final edits. And you can choose where you want to save them. You can create a new folder if you wanted to create a different workflow for, say, if you did weddings or you did events, you know, or portrait sessions. You can create different folders and create different editing presets based off of those different workflows. So I will just keep this one as a user preset and you hit create. So next time you've come to actually edit and export, you will then export using that preset. So now that we've created that preset, let's click export, and then this image will then export to the location that we chose using the same file size that we chose, etc. Wanted to export this image again, now that you've created a preset. So if you come on to export and you click export using the final edit preset that you've created, you just click export and that will batch export all the images that you select within the actual software to then export to the desired location that you've chosen. And there you have it, guys, a simple exporting workflow that I use and I find super effective for my workflow. If you'd like to see the actual full editing workflow, I will link this video here where I break down my full editing workflow using Lightroom and Photoshop. If you'd like to see more videos like this, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.